Okay, good afternoon. This is forecasting practices and processes number 3. We have 3 talks today. The first one is Johan Robert. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Okay. And he will be talking about bridging the gap between forecast and business value. Thank you.
Okay, so it works. Perfect. Thanks. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm really excited to be here with you today. This is my very first ISF, and we're going to discuss a topic I'm just passionate about. So that's why I'm so excited. We're going to try to answer what's one of the most important questions when it comes to business forecasting. Basically, do we add value or not? So my name is Johan. I work for a French company, which is called Vecchia. We are dedicated to inventory optimization, to replenishment automation. And basically, one of my missions is to show the money to our customers. They want to know how much value there are savings, how much profits they are making from our solution, basically what's the return on investment. And that's my job. So that directly leads us to today's topic, which is about business value. And I'd like to start this talk with a big fat claim, I would say, something I hope we will all agree with, which is forecasting is a means to an end. Do you agree with that? It looks so. Yet, interestingly, we barely never assess or ensure that indeed our forecasts deliver value to that very end. There are multiple reasons for that. One of these is that in companies, most people work in silos. So on most companies, you have on one side forecasters, their job is to make the best possible forecast. And then you have planners who are there to consume those forecasts, to make the best possible decisions. And this organization creates a gap. And this gap makes it pretty hard for forecasters to really link their forecast to the effective value they deliver. So kind of naturally, because the forecasting activity is quite often simplified as delivering a forecast, forecasters focus exclusively on their forecast. And because of that, I would say there's a kind of inconsistency in our practice. We just said it, we claim that the forecast is not the end, but we have to admit it for us, for forecasters, most often the forecast is the end. We basically discard what's being done afterwards, the kind of use, the kind of decision process that's coming afterwards. This being said, this wouldn't be a real challenge if we were perfectly aligned, forecasters and planners, on the very same objective, which is to deliver value. This wouldn't be a real challenge if we optimize our forecasts against metrics that indeed guarantee that we add value. So what's our North Star metric? What's our core metric in forecasting? Pretty easy question. The answer is, of course, forecast accuracy. And does that make sense? At first sight, it does. A fully accurate forecast wouldn't have any error. It would be a perfect knowledge of the future. It's the best demand signal we can share, sorry, with planners. Moreover, it sounds great. If a forecast is more accurate, it has less error, it's then a better forecast, it leads to better decisions, it leads to better outcomes. This is in fact so intuitive and so widely accepted that assessing the performance of a forecast using accuracy metric has become the norm in the forecasting practice. And because it's the norm, it's now blindly accepted as a truth, and it's almost never being challenged. But the question is accuracy really the best forecast metric? Is it really what we should be looking at? Is it really what our companies are needing? Because if it's the case, perfect, let's stick to this metric, they are great. But if it's not the case, I would say, damn Houston, we got a problem. Because we basically built our whole practice on this very metric. You may have noticed that from time to time, there are some research that are published and that points out to some issues with forecast accuracy metrics. Maybe one of the last in a row is an article that was published in Foresight in the last edition of 2021. It's this article, Beyond Error Measures to the Utility and Cost of the Forecast. And in this article, Fotios Petropoulos, who by the way is there, so we can discuss with him as well, and Elizabeth Yardley give a long list of precedent studies, research on the link between forecast accuracy and value. All of them shows evidence that accuracy and value are two distinct notions, two different notions that are not really well correlated. This means that, at least in a business context, we are wrong to be over-obsessed by accuracy. Accuracy metrics are, don't get me wrong, accuracy metrics are really great metrics. We can learn a lot from these metrics. Still, they couldn't be our core metric because we just said it, they don't guarantee that we add value. They correlate poorly with value, and our goal is to deliver value. So this being said, I'm now really excited to present you some of the key results we got from a research we conducted last year based on the M5 competition dataset. So, of course, you know it, the M5 competition is a forecasting competition that took place in 2020. It's a retail forecasting competition. The dataset was provided by Walmart. And the goal of this competition was to forecast the demand 28 days ahead. So there were more than 42,000 different time series, a pretty big, pretty comprehensive dataset. And what makes this competition quite unique and really relevant for today's topic is that the organizers have published, when the competition ended, 130 different forecasts they got. Benchmark forecast, top submission forecast, forecasts that cover both the deterministic and probabilistic tracks. And it means that for each single series, time series, we have 130 different forecasts available. Why is this a unique opportunity? Because given those forecasts are built for the very same perimeter, they could be really compared. We can get a lot of metrics out of this forecast and compare them to value to see how they do correlate. The only pity, though, is that in this competition, it was designed as a pure forecasting competition. So there is no single clue on the hypothetical decision process, for example, a replenishment process to kind of estimate the decision and the value we would get. So as one was required to conduct our study, we basically designed one, we created one. So we defined a stock policy, we defined supply chain constraints such as pack sizes, we defined some missing elements regarding the economical impacts, the gross margins, these kind of things. And because we wanted this study to be as relevant as possible, we used retail benchmarks to really enrich the data set with meaningful information, something that really mimics what's done in the retail industry. With all these elements, we enriched data. So with all these elements, we developed a digital twin that implements the decision process we just defined. So it consumes the forecast, and basically it generates replenishment decisions. From the forecast, we could then compute different forecast accuracy metrics. We could compute that at different aggregation levels. From the replenishment decisions, we computed the value that represents for a retailer. So basically, we compared the decisions with the true demand, and we then estimated the shortage cost, excess cost, holding cost, transportation cost, fixed costs, and so on. And we then compared those different metrics together to see how they do correlate. So to sum up, one digital twin, 42,000 different time series, 130 different forecasts to measure the correlation between different accuracy metrics and the effective value that's being delivered to a company. Here's what we obtained. This graph shows the correlation between accuracy metrics and business value. Each line represents an accuracy metric. The x-axis shows the different aggregation level. So it starts with the top global level on the left side of the screen down to the most granular store item level on the right side. And the y-axis is the correlation value we measured at those locations. And what's important here is that at the most granular level, so at the store item level, at the level at which replenishment decisions have to be made, and almost regardless of the accuracy metric that's being used, we found a 25% correlation between accuracy and costs. Only 25%, I should say. Of course, this is not a good news. This is a major concern. First, it confirms that forecast accuracy metrics and value are not that well correlated. But also it means that you could improve your forecast accuracy, let's say by 5%. And because of that, that's a great achievement. You can be proud of that. But because of that, your company is going to lose money. And you can also decrease your forecast accuracy, and you should be blamed because of that. And still, you would make your company more profitable. This means that the common assumption, the better the accuracy, the better the forecast, is just wrong. So the next question is, how could that be? Well, it's all about the cost structure. Accuracy metrics are considering the unsigned error value. They don't care whether it's over forecasting, under forecasting. All that matters is the distance between the forecast and the actual value. But in business, over forecasting or under forecasting doesn't lead at all to the same decisions and to the same consequences. Imagine you're predicting the need in medical oxygen for a hospital. If you're over forecasting by 10 units and there's no specific supply shortage, then you're wasting money. There's 10 units in exceed. But if you're under forecasting the very same 10 units, people may die. So same forecast accuracy, totally different consequences. And it's the exact same in the business, in any business, in fact. Now, should we care about that? Because, okay, conceptually, forecast accuracy, value, two different notions, okay, that's great, but what's the cost of this? Would leveraging a different type of metric, a value-oriented metric, allow for a real difference for company? Is it worth it to work on this specific topic? To evaluate the cost of the different metrics, this is what we did. We picked up the top 5 forecasts according to each of the metrics that we shown just before, the top 5 forecasts, and we included in those metrics a value-oriented metrics of our own to compare the performance. We computed the average cost of those forecasts, so we got the average cost each metric would have triggered for a company. And these are the results we got. Picking up forecasts according to a metric that considers value, here on the right side of the screen, allows for 10 to 35% savings in cost replenishment. So this is a significant impact. This has real impact on the company. For any retailer, this represents millions of dollars, euros, pounds of savings a year. So clearly, picking the appropriate metric is critical for our company. And the use of the value-oriented metric clearly here appears to be a must-have, as it consistently outperforms accuracy metrics. Now, for the remaining minutes, I'd like to share with you some exciting use cases we came across while using our digital twin. The first use case is about assessing the added value. So we are all aware of the forecast value added methodology, the FVA methodology. So it enables measuring the performance improvement between two different forecasts, for example, between the actual forecast and the naive one. The limit, though, is that the FVA is 99% of the time applied to accuracy metrics. So it does not measure forecast value added, but forecast accuracy added. And we just discussed the limitation of accuracy when using it as a proxy for value. So here, our digital twin could help. If we feed it with the actual forecast, we can compute the value our forecast generates for a company. If we feed this very same digital twin with a naive forecast, we could then compute the value that a naive forecast would generate for the company. And if we compare both, we just get the added value of the forecasting activity. This is nothing less than the forecast value added approach. But at last, it is here applied to value instead of accuracy. So we truly measure what's the value that's been added. And because a digital twin, for example, allows for a better implementation of the forecast value added approach, it helps improve all the use cases that are referring to this approach, establishing the return on investment of the forecasting activity, assessing the contribution of different steps in a forecasting process, of a contribution of different individuals within a team, building a strong business case when it comes to assessing the real performance that different vendors with their solution offered for a company. How much the value do they really add, and not just the forecast accuracy they demonstrate during a proof of concept, for example. But those are, I would say, improvements of existing new use cases. But there's way more than that, in fact. What would perfection mean? What would a perfect forecast mean for a company? From an accuracy point of view, the answer is quite easy, 100% accuracy. Whatever the skew, whatever the location, whatever the aggregation level, 100% accuracy, no shades of gray. Clearly, you can say that accuracy metrics are useless when it comes to assessing what a perfect forecast would mean for a company. But a digital twin does not suffer from such limitations. By feeding a digital twin with not a forecast, but with the actual demand, so a perfect forecast, an oracle forecast, we can compute the value that a perfect knowledge of the future would have generated for a company. And this is really something that's exciting and new, I would say. Something that from my research has almost not really much been investigated so far. What's the residual value of an actual forecast? How much value is being left on the table because of the error we made in our forecast? And now maybe the icing on the cake, la cerise sur le gâteau in French. Let's try to combine all those ideas. Using a digital twin helps us evaluate the value we are getting from a naive forecast, the value we are getting from the actual forecast, and the value we are getting from a perfect forecast. So it enables to create what we call a value map, a complete and clear value-oriented description of a company's portfolios of products and locations. So it allows really for an unprecedented understanding of the value and our contribution to value within a company. Also, it allows for greater efficiency. We are now able to plot, for example, the residual value, the money that's left on the table because of the error we made. We are able to plot that and to identify perimeters where we better stop digging further. It's not worth it. And perimeters where it's worth digging further. We could identify perimeters where the actual forecast, regardless of its level of accuracy, is good enough to grab almost all the value available. So it's not worth digging further, working further on this parameter. We could even identify perimeters where a naive forecast alone is good enough to get all the value that's there. There's no need to go for more fancy methods. But also, we could identify perimeters where there's still a lot of ungrabbed value yet. And this is definitely where we should focus our energy and resources first. And we could even prioritize our activities there to really put the resource where it matters most first. I don't know if you feel it like I feel it, but really, I feel like there's really something quite massive here, something that for sure requires further investigation, further research, but something that could fundamentally change the way we look at our forecast, and even the way we do forecast. So as it's time to conclude, let's conclude then. So in a nutshell, forecasting is a means to an end. We all agreed with that. Yet our whole practice is based on accuracy metrics that are poorly correlating with value. That's why we should turn to more value-oriented metrics and try to consider them and their impact on business. This is a different mindset. It's not just about estimating value and costs. It's really about changing the way we look at our forecasts. And this allows for increased efficiency, better decisions, improved outcomes. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. It was designed to be maybe a bit thought-provoking. I hope it was the case. And I had a second objective as for today, because I wanted to take this opportunity to call for collaboration, because I'm looking for a few experts, practitioners, academics who would be willing to create a kind of collective around this topic and collaborate on that and really help the forecasting practice switch from a purely accuracy obsession to a value obsession. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jan. And we have time for one question while Claudio gets ready for his talk. I'm going to go ahead. You're ready?
Any question?
Hello, that was an amazing presentation, super insightful. I wanted to ask you the question about the value-oriented metric that you showed on the graph with the MAPE and the other stuff. What exactly is that metric and how was that calculated?
Thanks a lot for the question. Indeed, it's a key question. Here we use the digital twin that we developed to compute the real, the effective value that's being delivered for the different forecasts. So we use this digital twin to estimate a posteriori the cost of different forecasts. Then in further works, we are aiming to create some heuristics around that, to be able to estimate what are the drivers of these values and how to a priori estimate what will be the value and forecast and where there's risk regarding the forecast cost. And thanks for the question.
There is one way.
I think I'm running out of time. So if you have any more questions, I will be more than happy to discuss.